This is the Truth Network.
The heart of every man craves a great adventure, but life doesn't usually feel that way. Jesus speaks of narrow gates and wide roads, but the masculine journey is filled with many twists and turns. So how do we keep from losing heart while trying to find the good way when life feels more like a losing battle than something worth dying for? Grab your gear and come on a quest with your band of brothers who will serve as the guides in what we call the masculine journey. The masculine journey starts here now.
Welcome to Masculine Journey. We are very glad to have you with us. You're hearing a little bit of a tired group, a very excited but tired group. We're just a couple days removed from boot camp, and it was such an amazing time. Amazing, but I think unilaterally we're all still feeling the effects of just a very engaged, fun weekend.
Yeah, that's why I was calling it. I called Monday the boot camp the morning after.
Yeah.
Because my wife looked at me, she said, "Are you okay?" I said, "It's the Monday after boot camp." She, oh.
Yeah, it's, well, there's nothing like the weekend. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's you feel the effects for a few days. I think that's part of the reason we love doing it the weekend before Thanksgiving. Is because if you can get back, for most of us at work, you at least get Thanksgiving off, and some of us get Friday off too, and so you can have like a little bit of a retreat after, having had boot camp, and so it's kind of nice to come back and just work a few days and then be able to take a few days off and kind of recuperate a little bit, but there's a lot to think about, a lot to talk about. It was a great boot camp. I love all the boot camps, but this is probably in my top 5 favorite boot camps, and I don't know why. It was just so good. I could see God just working everywhere in the boot camp, just on all levels, and it was pretty amazing. What was some of your guys' initial thoughts from the camp?
Well, in my case, we had a completely different kind of situation in that we were cooking.
Yeah.
We were doing the cooking, and that was really cool from a standpoint of watching everybody chip in and all that took place with that. And, my personal opinion, we ate much better.
Yeah, we did.
We ate really well.
Yeah, it could be why I'm feeling some sluggishness still. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to whet anybody's appetites, but we had brisket.
Yeah.
That was actually an amazing taste treat. The first night, the second night, we had baby back ribs that literally, fell off the bone, and they'd never been boiled. They were, and then we had New York strip the third night, and 7 foods of the Promised Land breakfast on Sunday morning, which people asking for the recipe for that one. And it was just, that aspect of it was completely different. But I loved Andy's prayer right before the show. It really kind of touched me, like, man, God, I'm not near as thankful as I need to be. He thanked God for the group, right? Like, we had a group from the Winston-Salem Rescue Mission. We've never seen such hunger.
Oh, yeah.
For God, for God's word, for worship. Like, these guys worshiped on Saturday night. That worship experience Saturday night was one of the best at any boot camp I've nowhere even close, I don't think.
No.
To what that was. But then, we had a good group from my church, West Asheville Baptist, and pretty much my entire youth group, as far as the guys were concerned, of the youth group, and one of their dads. And it was just a neat thing to experience something like that with the people you go to church with. I've never had that, really.
Right.
And there's just a lot of angles that were new and fun. And, I'm like Andy, man. I just can't believe what God did. He showed up in so many different ways. Andy?
Yeah, I agree. And Robbie will deflect, but I'm going to say it anyway. He did an awesome job in leading up the kitchen ministry, but it also forced us to kind of pull together and help each other out. And I think we've talked about some of that camaraderie we had, and there were not just us of the staff, but there were also a lot of the attendees that helped out. And we had Kenny always as always serving well, and it was just a good time all around. I really enjoyed this. It was one of my favorite times leading the airsoft and how integrated the guys were. We actually brought in some rifles into the competition, and so it was. But just how God moved on the hearts. You could tell the hunger, the questions, the guys asking us to pray for them when we left or they left, and it's just a good overall boot camp, like Sam said.
Yep. Danny, you got anything?
I was just sitting thinking about walking into the cabin when I got there Thursday, and there laid one of those airsoft rifles, and I thought, oh, we've upped the game now. Didn't know I should have come packing,
Yeah, no, it was just an amazing weekend. The weather was really pretty accommodating. It wasn't too rainy at any point, and it was good. We were able to have a really good bonfire. It was just nice all around. I wouldn't have done anything any different, I don't think.
Hats off to Art and Grant for the bonfire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. We had just lots and lots of help. But we'll get to our first clip, and Danny, you actually have the first clip. Only because you submitted first, so let's just clear that up.
Well, it just makes sense. It just kind of makes sense because it was first.
It was first,
Well, it's a clip we've used at boot camp, the audio and video, but we've used it on here several times. Matter of fact, I just re-gifted it because it is Christmas season, basically. So
it's not Thanksgiving yet. You can't do that.
Well, people got decorations out. I mean, anyway.
Well, depending on where you live, they might have decorations out year round. So
yeah, there's some people around my house that just never take them down. So that's
exactly,
okay.
Yeah.
It's from Braveheart, and it's a scene in William's childhood where his father is going off to war, and then he gets killed, and then his Uncle Argyle shows up, and just it's a lot. We use it in fatherhood and sonship. And so we can play the clip and we'll talk about it afterwards. So.
All right, here we go.
I can fight.
I know you can fight. But it's our wits that make us men.
What are they doing?
Saying goodbye in their own way. Playing outlawed tunes on outlawed pipes. It was the same for me and your daddy when our father was killed. First, learn to use this. Then I'll teach you to use this.
I guess I should probably set up what we're talking about. We just kind of jumped in. We're unless we already did and I wasn't paying attention. We're just kind of sharing our favorite moments of boot camp, and we've talked a little bit about boot camp, but that's what the clips are referring to, something that ties into part of our favorite moment. So apologize.
Yeah. Well, this clip, I got to do the Core Desires talk this time, and the diving into the talks before boot camp, and I think all the material that you look at and how God just kind of walks you through this process, in my opinion. But we talk a lot about God coming after your heart, and that's kind of the setup for the weekend, is how he's coming after your heart and in all kinds of different ways. But what I wasn't expecting was the way that came about. That we did some prayer cards and stuff, and I read one, and it just impacted me so much. It wasn't so much a request. It was like somebody wrote down their answer they heard from God about being a beloved son. And, it impacted me. I kept the card and read it over and over. And then as the weekend progressed, I had several different conversations with, people that... A man who talked about how he adopted this kid that moved in down the road from him that became his grandson, basically. He adopted him and just poured into his life, and that's always a two-way street. And the story was just awesome. And then there was a father and son, and ultimately the boy had been adopted, and how this man had poured into this young boy and raised him up. And that's boot camp. That's how God, that's his message, is how God comes after us, because he wants to father us. And we need adopting, we needed rescue, we need all the above. And it was just really a cool scenario, in my opinion. So
I'm good. Harold?
One of the things that came out of that clip, even though I'd seen the clip a few times before, it just really thrilled me when I heard it this time, because it said it's our wits that make us a man. So the fact that I'm 5'6" doesn't exclude me from being a man.
that's right.
Okay. I from top to bottom, all the campers were all the attendees were great. I got to talk with a lot of them this time and get to know a little bit of their story. A lot of them I like to know more about their story, but you only have so much time, when you're doing different things. But I think it was just a universal hunger for God this weekend, and I think that you could just feel it in the whole camp.
Yeah, the thing about that clip that I think is so, earth-shattering kind of was for me the first time I understood, what was going on with Mr. Socks there.
Yeah.
Uncle Argyle.
Yeah.
But, when you do the sonship talk, like you can watch the sonship talk as many times as you can watch it, but the first opportunity you have to do the talk, you have to figure out all the fathers that God has put into your life. And this was an example of young William Wallace. The first character you heard talk about, you need to use your wits, that like Harold was talking about. Well, that was his earthly father, but he died almost immediately in that part of the sonship talk. And the next thing you know, God is sending in another father, which is Uncle Argyle. And I'd always thought of God as the backup plan. Like, if somebody becomes an orphan, God's the backup plan. He'll be their father. Or, somebody else, here comes a grandfather or whatever the situation, it's a backup plan. But no. God is like this master, symphony conductor who is bringing in the exact father that you need in the exact season that you need. And when you do that talk and you begin to think of the fathers that you had, it's amazing.
Yeah, we'll talk to you after the break.
What we have at our boot camp is something that makes you stronger and gives you the strength to go on your regular walk with God. It's something that will make you be bigger than you were when you got there.
What brings you here this weekend?
So I met Robbie, and he invited me to come to the boot camp, and there was just so many doors that were closed before I was able to come here, but God allowed these things to happen. And I said, God, I'm gonna ultimately acknowledge what's going on for all these doors to be open for me to come to this camp. I just want to seek you. So throughout that time, since I've been here, just the illumination of God speaking to me through my heart and through my mind and through my soul it's went to a whole nother level since I've been here at the boot camp. The covenant of silence after the talks and being able to go out and just submit myself to being able to hear from God and what we've been working on, and it's just been transparent in my life. The level of the sanctification process, the discipleship process, and coming here, I feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Register today at masculinejourney.org.
Welcome back to Masculine Journey. That was a bump in, and was that Bethel music? Is that
yes?
Yeah, Bethel music. And all right, so the reason I chose that bump, it was what I thought was going to be my least favorite part of boot camp. It was a surprise from Robbie, and I know if I say this, some guys are going to go, I'm not going to go, but no, I saw we had we have a couple worship sessions, one Saturday evening and one Sunday, and I saw a little bit of a video play, where people were doing like these moving gestures, like worshiping through doing some gestures to this song. And Robbie was getting real quiet about it, and he's like, I didn't want to show that quite yet. He's telling David, and I told David, I'm like, I'm not doing it. And so,
The truth comes out.
I'm like, I know Robbie wants it, but I really don't want to do it. That's like way outside my comfort zone. And so, then, Robbie has a way of getting people to participate. And I got to say, it was fun. I enjoyed doing it, and it was a different way to worship. I'll give you that. But what I enjoyed more was looking around the room and just seeing so many of the guys that completely got into it. That were just really worshiping in a different way that, I would have thought it would have been just crickets. But it was as opposite as it could be. And guys were just thoroughly enjoying it. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. And, definitely I think God laid that on your heart, Robbie. But it was a pretty cool part of the weekend. It was one of my favorite parts from the standpoint of a biggest surprise for me. So
yeah, well, that particular morning, Danny, we started working in the kitchen most mornings about 2 or 3 o'clock. And I don't know what the time when Danny came in, maybe it was 4 or 5. Whenever he came in, and we had the worship music just blasting, me and Gene in there. And Danny was like, man, you're making me cry. And we just had the best time worshiping. And that whole day was just a day of worship, like it really was. And that night, long before we got to that song, my heart was totally like, I don't know if I've told you, Andy, you just picked the perfect songs to really set that song up so that when it broke, people were ready to really dance.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the most, even before that part, it was the most I'd ever seen the guys participate in singing, in a worship session. It was, I was at the point, because I was running I was lighting technician over there with the light switch. And I could see everybody, and everybody, for the most part, was singing along, and that was pretty cool because you don't normally see that, especially in a group of guys. You don't see that very frequently. But.
Well, the cool part of the other side of me walking in on, they did have music blaring. It's like 4:30 in the morning, and I'm hunting coffee, the old 9 yards. And, Robbie said, you want me to turn it down? I said, no. And because I'm listening to these songs, I said, what are you playing? He said, this is my playlist. And I was in shock, to be honest with you, because I learned something about my friend Robbie. Because for whatever reason, nothing that Robbie's ever done that I know of is, I just kind of thought he was indifferent to that kind of worship music, just that kind of deal, and just kind of.
It would be all Hebrew all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, he got some Hebrew, something going on.
Something going on,
something like that. The monks walking in, whole 9 yards or something. And I get to talking to him about it and just listening to his playlist, and I went, wow. This is really cool, and I think it let us bond a little closer. It was just really cool. So
it was a great morning. That was a great day. It's like Andy said in his prayer. I don't know that we could be grateful enough to God that we, for such a time as this, with such a group, and certainly the campers are something, but when you think about the band of brothers that God has put together for us to be able to walk with such amazing people of God all the time, and even sitting here now, Terry's with us, and other guys that weren't able to make it to camp like Corn, we got more that are standing out there, but like, man, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. Andy, you have the next clip, so if you want to tell us a little bit about it or go where you want to go with it.
Sure. So Sam did my favorite talk, Sonship Talk, and standard Braveheart clips and all always get me. But at the end, and we've done this before, but it just didn't hit me like it did this weekend, was he used a clip from Blood Diamond. And Blood Diamond, the story behind that is you've got this man, Solomon Vandy, that he's with this archer guy and that's Leonardo DiCaprio's character, if you've seen the movie, but they're looking for a diamond that was hidden, and the son, Dia, has been kind of drafted in as a child soldier into this liberation army and really been brainwashed to not acknowledge his father And so they're digging for this diamond that was hid. And Solomon is digging for it, and Archer kind of says, hey, look. And the son walks in. I've just told you the whole clip, but the son walks in, and it's just a powerful scene where the father calls to the son to remind him back to who he is.
Yeah, and the son's probably, 8? Somewhere there?
Yeah.
Probably about that age, and so that way...
Yeah, and it is a visual clip, but you'll get it. There's enough dialogue you can get what's happening.
Here we go.
Keep digging, huh? They'll be here any second. Come on. Keep digging. Oh. It had better be there, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. You got it. Have you got it, huh?
Yes, got it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Solomon.
Dear, what are you doing? Dear. Young babe, what are you doing? Beladia Avanti of the proud Mende tribe. You are a good boy who loves soccer and school. Your mother loves you so much. She waits by the fire making plantains and red palm oil stew with your sister Nyanda. And did you, baby? The cows wait for you. And Babu, the wild dog who wants no one but you. I know they made you do bad things, but you're not a bad boy. I am your father, who loves you. And you will come home with me and be my son again.
One thing you need to know is that the whole time that father's making that speech, the boy's holding a revolver in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Harold. I was going to mention that. It's sometimes I feel like we get, the enemy brainwashes us. He gets us to thinking that the father is the enemy. And that he's not for us, and that father just calls out the identity. He calls him by name, and then he calls out the things that he likes, and the thing that makes him who he is. And the child just breaks down and ends up falling into his father's arms. But just a powerful scene of where we go our wayward ways from the father. We do our prodigal stuff. And how God comes after us and calls us out of who we really are.
Yep.
It's kind of tough being on the phone. It's like, do I need to send and that's all I got, or anything?
No. It's just I think you're hearing the effects of a lot of us being tired. We're just like, okay, my brain's got to re-engage again.
I keep forgetting you can't hear a nod.
Yeah, we're shaking our head as you talk. It's just most of them don't rattle. So if you do,
yeah, a few rocks over here.
Yeah, I love the aspect of that they made you do bad things,
right,
and or they tricked you into it or whatever. And one of the major themes we saw from this camp was the issue of forgiveness, specifically people forgiving themselves.
Right.
Yeah, that did seem to be a theme.
Yeah.
And God really came after that.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of what the guys asked us to pray for after this camp was that they would be able to help forgive themselves.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. I mean, it's been a part of, I think, most of our stories.
Oh, very.
Right, that able to forgive oppressors sooner than forgiving ourselves.
Right.
And that's pretty consistent, and the enemy just has a good way of getting you to hold on to that one way or another. Pride, embarrassment, whatever it might be. He knows what works for you, and he tries to get you to hold on to that. That's not even yours to carry anyway.
Yeah, so you think about that 8-year-old boy trying to process that I'm standing here with a gun on my father.
Right.
And yet the father is so gracious. Like you could tell that he was his beloved son. And, that's what made the impact on allowing the boy to be able to get past, that label. And it's only the father that's going to be able to help us forgive ourselves.
Right.
It's impossible without him saying, look what I did. Look what I went through so that you could have this. It's yours, son. It's yours. It's beautiful.
Yeah, just the Father's grace in the midst of that. And you did get to hear, as people have said, God's voice, coming through. Because God knows very well what we've done. I mean, this father speculated. Our Heavenly Father knows for sure what all we've done, and His grace is still there, exactly like that for us, which is pretty cool. Now we don't have a boot camp. Well, we do have a boot camp coming up in March, but we're not going to start talking about that quite yet to have you register for that. But I do want to say, if you want to go to something between now and March, we do have a lot of friends that have boot camps. Some will be on the air with us from time to time, but we always have friends that have them coming up, and sometimes they're in Kentucky, Ohio, lots of different places that they have them. We were more than happy to recommend a place. If you want to get to one, just reach out to any of us at our first name at masculinejourney.org. And anything we have coming up will be at our website eventually at masculinejourney.org. The one thing we would ask for you to do this week is just as we go into Thanksgiving, thank the Lord for everything you have and love yourself well.
This is the Truth Network.